We're good now. So hello everybody. So nice to see all of you. Hello Mare. Is your daughter still cycling?
She is. She'll be here soon.
Okay. Are you tracking her?
Yeah.
So you know what her daughter is doing? She's cycling. Do you want to explain?
Yeah, she's riding 108 miles. She's riding 108 miles to raise money for the Mahabodhi Stupa project at Land of Medicine Buddha. So people can sponsor her to do that. And she started this morning from Seichenling in San Francisco. And she's going to be ending the day today here. And then tomorrow from here to Vajrapani. And then Monday from Vajrapani to Land of Medicine Buddha. So that equals 108 miles total. If anybody wants to donate, I have a little swiper. We're kind of close to our goal of 24,000, so.
Wow.
Yeah.
Bravo.
5,000. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you. No, thank you. So I think that's really inspiring. What else? Yeah, sorry about my Spanish time. I know it's no excuse, so I'm really sorry about that. Your time is precious. Yeah, so we can start talking about that. What's precious for us, right? So what's the most precious thing that we have to share? It's our time, our space, our energy, our attention, right? Our values, all those things are the most precious things we have. There's nothing more precious than that. And how you relate to people, how do you relate to the circumstances that you encounter, how you relate to the environment. So that also is very important. And the way you relate is based on your perception, the way you perceive something. So based on that, you react one way or another. Attraction, rejection, or indifference. And through that reaction, we're creating the condition, a condition, right? So in I think Sanskrit or Pali, I think Sanskrit is they call it Shankara. The Shankara. Is it Pali that or is it Sanskrit? I'm not sure. Shankara, Sanskrit, right? Shankara. So that means the conditioning, that we're creating, that we've been creating for many lifetimes, and even this lifetime, it's huge because every moment we are following this kind of conditionings. We're creating the conditionings by reacting to the perceptions, to what we perceive, right? To the sensations. Sensations come through the five senses, right? So that's basically how we interact with realities, through the five senses. But we don't understand very well that it's an interpretation. What we see, what we understand is only an interpretation. Because if you think about it, if there is nobody to perceive that reality, it doesn't have a color or a form or a smell, because there's nobody to perceive it. It's colorless. So only through us does it actually become what we perceive it as it is. And obviously every person perceives things in a different way because we are in a different place, a different evolution or a different circumstance. I mean, everything, in every aspect we're different, because of our background, because of the culture, where we were born, how we grew up, the experiences that make us what we are today. And many times, of course, our perception is based on memory. If you took away our memory, we can't even open the door. Patients who have Alzheimer's, it gets to a point where they don't know how to open a door because they don't have a memory. So a lot of our perception is also based on memory. We make sense of our reality because we have a certain memory that helps us to relate to that, to put things in place. So all of these conditions are part of our understanding of what we're perceiving. But the issue here is not that we're perceiving something, it's how number one, we cling to it. Number two, how we believe in it completely. Like, we really truly believe that what we are perceiving is exactly that, what there is, but it has absolutely nothing to do. And of course, there's lots of like experiments like optical illusions that show how the brain actually kind of like tends to trick you in a way, so just to make it easier for you to perceive. I mean, in the first place, if you think about it, everything we see is upside down in the brain, right? The eyes see it upside down, the brain sees it upside down, and then it turns it around, so for us to be able to kind of make sense of it. But that's happening automatically. We're not aware of that process. It's the same way we can't control our heart beating. Well, we think we can't, but there are meditators who can change their heart rates. It is possible. But most of us, we're not aware of what's going on inside our body, let alone what's happening outside. So we can't really think, what I see is what there is, and believe it so hard that even our passions and our depressions and our worries all are based on that, on this perception. But if you think about it, if you really start to understand the reality, what really there is, then all these things, all these emotions that move us from one place to another, like the wind moves the grass, all of that would disappear, because you'd be able to see. And that's one of the names for that would be renunciation, So, but when you say in Tibetan Ngejung, it has more meaning than just renunciation. That would be just one part of it. But the other part would be to understand the reality, to see the reality. So through that understanding, you're not so attached. You don't get so the clinging, the grasping. That which creates suffering, basically. Not only material grasping, but the formless grasping also. That one is very important to be aware of. There's many aspects of that. The grasping for the sensations, the grasping for a state of mind, the grasping for this maybe adrenaline or being with someone. What do you call it? The endorphins, or when you're in love, like the oxytocin or the dopamines, all these things. Hello, Richard. Good to see you. So all that, that's grasping, that's formless grasping. So we also have to be aware of all these aspects. And the attachment, when we get that grasping, is based of a fear of losing, wanting more, not living the moment, being unsatisfied. The only reason we're unsatisfied is because we're not living the moment, right? If we were living the moment, then we would be happy with what we have, because we're grateful for what we have. So that's very important. Gratitude is a very important key to the whole, concept of a happy life. If you want a happy life, you start with gratitude. And so Dharma really helps us, One of the very important aspects of Dharma, of practicing Dharma, not just Dharma, because Dharma by itself is like a light bulb without the electricity. We are the electricity. We are the ones who actually, give it its purpose. So one of the things that Dharma gives us, very important, is that it helps us to really be able to adapt positively to any circumstance. And that's so important. We are capable of doing it, but many times we give way to stress, we give way to that small mind, and then we give so much importance to it. We get so stressed, so agitated, so disturbed, so this, so that, but then it's just extra weight you're putting on yourself. That happens every day, in many aspects, like road rage. I didn't know about road rage, a little bit, but when I came to America, I realized it's a big thing here. I mean, Europe also, but normally, people, I don't know, it's, I think there's a lot of traffic in America, yeah. Many cars. Sometimes each family has 5 cars. Right? If you have 2 parents, 3 kids, you have 5 cars. And of course, that's probably because the public transport system doesn't work very well. But anyways, I didn't come to talk about that. So, yeah, I came to talk about one big love, I think. Is that correct? I think that's right. The slogan is that one. So, One big love. I mean, it's just a name I came up with because I mixed Lama Yeshe's big love concept and Bob Marley's one love concept. So I fused them. One big love. And because it's very interesting, it's the same thing actually, you know. What Bob Marley, his one love means it's all the same love, you know. We love everybody the same. Like you would love yourself, or like a mother would love the son or the daughter. You know, so it's one, it's universal kind of. That is a one. There's no separation, one kind of thing. And then big love, of course, from Lama Yeshe. So one big love. Anyway, so that's where the name came from. They liked the name, so they said, oh, you know, maybe you can talk about love. But I said, it's very difficult to talk about love. You can't talk about love. You know, because love is just one word to try to, in Spanish we say abarcar. How do you say in English? Abarcar, to cover maybe, or to include or explain. So one word to explain love, it's just impossible. It doesn't make any sense. You know, so I mean, I can try to maybe talk a little bit of maybe concepts of what is love, but that's why it's difficult for me to talk about love just, you know, but I can try to kind of cover a little bit of aspects of love because it's like talking about karma, you know, you can't really cover everything because one word is just not enough. We like to put things in boxes because we like to feel that we're in control, you know, but we're not even in control of what's happening in our body. We can't even control that, you know. How do we expect to control the outside world? You know, and many times people think, oh, you know, this people doesn't change, or this doesn't, they need the circumstances to change. But the easiest thing is you change. You adapt to the circumstances. Very nice story about the king in India. I don't know if it's a true story or not. It could not be a true story, but it's a very beautiful metaphor about the king. Because maybe at that time, you know, so everybody would be walking barefoot. So, and the king, he didn't like to walk barefoot because there's outside, there were thorns or stones or whatever, you know. So he ordered for there to be pathways made of leather all over the country for him to walk on, barefoot. So it was going to be a lot of work and a lot of leather that we're going to have to use. So there was a minister, he was very intelligent, and he came to the king. He was like, well, may I make a suggestion? He said, don't you think it's easier to put the leather on your feet instead of covering all the surface with leather for you to be able to walk on it comfortably? So he convinced the king that it would be much easier, you know. So the king put the leather on his feet, and then he was like, wow, that's a great solution. So I don't know if that's a true story, but it's a metaphor of how we should do with our minds, you know. We are capable of doing it, but we choose not to. Even though it will complicate things much more, it will make it much more difficult, and it will, you know, it will create, because we have to channel that. If we get angry, if we don't forgive, you know, if we talk badly at someone, if we feel, you know, resentful, or even if we feel guilty sometimes, you know, we have to channel that vibration, that frequency, that energy. Our body, it goes through our body. We create it, we have to take it, we go through it, we have to channel it. So it's like, it's all of that. It's a lot of work, you know. They say it takes so many more muscles to frown than to smile. It's true. I don't know, but a lot more muscles to frown. So it's a lot more work to frown than to smile. It's very easy to smile. Somehow people love to frown. I used to have, sometimes when I have problems, so in the universe there's only two people. Sometimes I have issues, communication issues, and I don't get along very well sometimes. I really have to work on it. There's these two people. One is my mother, the other one is the mother of my son. Which we separated, but we're trying to be friends, you know, keep the friendship alive, because our son is the most important thing, right? So those are the two people that I have so much difficulty, you know, with, and so many times when I talk, we have difficulty, frustration, communication. I end up frowning, and then maybe for 1 or 2 hours I'm frowning and I don't realize it, and then maybe I'm in the elevator and I look at myself and I'm like, whoa, you know. So I try to like open up the frown, you know, like, okay, don't frown so much, like, like that. Then it goes back again, but a little bit less. So open, and it really changes. When you're like that a lot, it changes your whole attitude, the state of mind. It's like, some people, put their hands in their head and, like that, that it's creating that energy, self-pity. Oh, very dangerous, this one. It's extra burden, extra weight. The same way if experiences that you don't like happen to you in your life, things that are difficult for you to overcome, trauma, hard experiences, like experiences that have a big impact on you, give you like a post-traumatic. All these things, if we carry it with us, oh, this happened to me, now I can't change, I can't move, I can't be a functional person, or I can't, fuse, blend into society. If you have that kind of mentality, then yes, it's going to be a backpack, it's going to be a burden, it's going to be a weight on your back. But if you say, okay, this happened to me, but I'm going to use it as a lesson, a learning experience, in order to help other people to overcome that too, for example. To share that part, the good aspect. So you have to be able to overvalue the positiveness, most importantly. And the negativeness, don't have to value so much, unless you want to learn from it, then it's good. But if you don't learn from it, then no point so much in valuing it, because most of the times people they overvalue negativity so much more. Somehow we're wired in that way, a little bit. A mother that raised her children by herself and passed them through university, 5 children, something like that. After 20 years, she won't make headlines. But a mother who killed her child in a moment of rage, that will make headlines. Even though it took 1 second to do it. And the other one took 20 years of everyday effort, So that's what I'm talking about, overvaluing negativity. We do that every day. But if we are able to change that habit, really just focus on the positive things. Overvalue that. Then that's what's going to prevail in your everyday life. What you project, what you create, that's what you're going to attract. If you have fear, then you're going to attract what you're fearful of. But if you're confident, you're good, you're happy, you attract that. There's a saying I like very much, is prepare for the worst, but expect the best. Right? So that's very helpful. But when I say prepare for the worst, doesn't mean project the worst. It's just be ready, Be aware. That life, it's all about transformation. We are transforming, we are changing. So we have to go with the flow. And that's about adaptation, When we go with the flow, we understand that that's how it's meant to be. It's a process of learning, of understanding, of sharing, of growing, of evolving. Yeah. Maybe we can do some motivation, we do some prayers. Yeah. Sangye chena chogi chenamla chanjo pardo dani kepsuji dagi jinso gibe chonamgi dola penje sangye drubara shu sangye chena chogi chenamla chanjo pardo dani kepsuji dagi jinso gibe chonamgi dola penje sangye drubara shu sangye chena chogi chenamla chanjo pardo dani kepsuji dagi jinso gibe sonamgi dola penje sangye drubara shu. Sorry, I forgot to do it at the beginning. Okay, so maybe we can do some workshop, so maybe teamwork. So if anybody is interested in me talking about something, some aspect or I don't know, subject or even question like that. So there's a microphone. So just raise your hand and to pass you the microphone, and then so I have more subjects to talk about. So I know a little bit like which direction to take. So please.
Honor to meet you, Lama. So
Hello, thank you so much.
Heard
Thank
about
you.
you for
Same
many
here.
years, and it's really looking forward to getting to see you some days. And today is the day. I got one question. a lot of questions, but I'll just ask one for now. So Lama Yeshe had said that in regard to talking about love and loving kindness and so forth, Lama Yeshe had said that for a man, and it would be also true for a woman, the sense of, again, as in the case of a man, of feeling like that, the longing for the other, the yin, the feminine. A man feels lonely without a woman because he feels like he's only half of a whole.
Yeah.
And in my life, that has been an ongoing theme.
Okay.
I've experienced a lot of rejection, and so I mean, there's obviously relative and ultimate aspects of how to address that. But that was I remember reading that.
Okay, I'll talk about that first.
Okay, sure.
Okay. Otherwise, I'm going to forget the first part.
Okay.
So this is a very good subject, actually, because it happens every day, and so mainly, okay, there's many aspects to that. There's different perspectives, let's say. So I want to touch on all of them, or at least the ones that we can touch on now. So one aspect, of course, is you're saying, oh, we are male, we don't have female, we want the female, or something like that. So this is actually incorrect, because we have both. We have the male aspect and the female aspect within us. Okay. When we were conceived at the beginning, there's no sex, and it's only later on that it happens. But the base of the fetus is exactly the same. Okay. So, and another thing also is rejection is a good question about this, because this aspect, because we're scared of rejection, so then we don't take the initiative, or sometimes we are scared of making mistakes, so we cut our creativity. We shut down our creativity because we're scared of making mistakes. So many times we set ourselves up for rejection, basically, because we have that fear. We're projecting that, we're creating it, and our whole attitude is based around that fear, and that can be smelt maybe, or it can be felt. That energy, and evolution and nature has been created in such a way that there's many aspects of the human form or of life that we are not aware of, very, very subtle ones. So these things they're all part of that. Okay, so there's lots of, details of this aspect. Then, of course, so basically, many times, if we are not comfortable with ourselves, if we don't love ourselves, if we feel that we need something from the outside, that we're not complete, in other words, then that is also going to reflect in our energy, in our attitude, right? So that is also something that's not attractive, whichever sex it is. That's how it works. So you're attracted to somebody who's very comfortable with themselves, who really loves themselves, who doesn't need anybody, who's not a needy person. Or physical contact, or I want to be next to you. You get attached. The formless attachment that I was talking about. The feeling, that's many people, they mistake the word love for that. The feeling that the other person makes you feel. Right? So you get attached to that, and I love you. No, you don't love that person. You love the feeling that they create in you, or that you have when you're in the presence of the other person. So you love that. But then maybe, I love you if you stay only with me. Then, boom, you see, there's a condition. And many times the result can be suffering. So then if it's true love, then there is no suffering. There cannot be a result as suffering, because it was unconditional love, universal love. Right? So the suffering doesn't come from love, it comes from the attachment, from the expectations, from the idealizations. So basically we are setting ourselves up for disappointment. But we do that a lot. We tend to do that the same way We want to be happy. Everybody wants to be happy. But the method that we're going on about to become happy is completely the opposite. It's going to give us the opposite result. We're actually going to end up suffering because of the intention. I want to be happy, me. So it's self-centered. So as long as you have that concept, it's impossible to really be happy. Because you're only thinking about this concept of me. And the whole part of being satisfied is because you're not living the moment. So the moment you live, you're present, you're living the moment, you have gratitude, the priority is not going to be me, it's going to be everybody else. And when you have that, then you're super happy. Because you don't multiply that self-pity, that anything good is multiplied and anything bad is not so bad. So that's also one of the main practices within Dharma, is to be aware of your motivation. So you love yourself, you help yourself, you learn, you grow, you take care of yourself in order to help other sentient beings to be able to achieve the same. So to understand the true nature of your mind, to understand your potential, all of these aspects is a practice of Dharma. So going back to that part of creating the right conditions, to attract the person that you're looking for, let's say. I don't know, a person, maybe it's not a person, maybe you just have to be with yourself. If you're lonely alone, you're going to be lonely anywhere and with anyone. That's how it is. You have to learn to enjoy your company. You have to be able to because we are born and we die alone. That's a fact. I'm sorry, I have to give it to you like that, but it's how it happens, okay? And we can only communicate to others through the 5 senses, actually, if you think about it. Unless, of course, you practice meditation, you reach telepathic realizations, and then you can talk to aliens. But unless, otherwise, it's all about, looking into each other's eyes, looking into the window of the soul, let's say. Right? The eyes are the window of the soul. Ooh, watch out! I'm looking at you. No, I'm just kidding. So, but that's it's through a hug, for example, through a smile, or even cooking some food, or playing some music, or singing, or talking. There's so many aspects of communication, of sharing, of what we have, what we feel, what painting. We're expressing the magic of life. Wow, that's so artistic. Why is it artistic? Because it represents what we're all looking for, which is the moment now, the magic that's happening that we forget about. Because we get used to it, and then we start looking everywhere else. And we don't realize that what we're looking for, our whole life is right in front of us, inside of us, the whole time. And so when we stop a little bit, we sit down, we stop searching and thinking and worrying and all that, then the real voice within, you can hear it, the voice of the heart, or the gut feeling, the intuition. So all these aspects, and now I got lost. I don't know where. I wanted to come back somewhere, but maybe someone can help. I don't know. Love? Like, it always comes back to that, right? Good point. Thank you, Richard. The 5 senses. So we're all communicating through that. If you take that away, how are you going to communicate? So that's why we are actually isolated within ourselves. But if we accept it, then we can be connected to everything, to everybody. Because there is no separation. In the ultimate definition of reality, which is very difficult to understand conceptually, because for us it's more like the basic, the kind of like conventional concept. The absolute idea is more difficult to understand. But in the ultimate reality, there's no separation, right? There's no time, there's no distance, there's no separation. So, in that aspect, okay, it's different, right? But normally, from our kind of normal small potato Mickey Mouse point of view, then we are alone, right? So, but we have to start there. We have to start understanding and accepting that. If we don't confront ourselves, if we don't confront our problems, our issues, our traumas, our difficulties, even the ones that we actually ignore. Many times we'll be fooling ourselves, we'll be ignoring aspects of ourselves. We don't want to take responsibility or recognize, So while we're doing that, then very difficult. We don't recognize that, very difficult. So many times we need other people also to help us to see that, That's why, life is about sharing, it's about caring, it's about understanding together, learning from each other. Not you don't learn from one person only. And that nobody can teach you unless you learn. Right? So you are the one who's learning. You can't teach a baby to walk, they have to learn how to walk. But you can show them an example for them to learn from. So these are all these aspects. But mainly, you have to challenge yourself, you have to confront that aspect of yourself. Otherwise you're bypassing. You're taking refuge in something in order to not to have to do that challenge. But eventually you're going to have to come back to that. One day you're going to have to confront that aspect of yourself. Because life is all about learning, and even the day that we're dying, we're still learning how to die. The process of dying. Even though we've done it for many lifetimes. Like being a parent, also we've done it many lifetimes. Or being born, It's not a new thing. But every lifetime it seems like a new thing, Because the karmic memory is all there, the imprint is there, but the gross mind is not able to see that subtle aspect. And that's why it's so important to meditate, so you sharpen the mind, so you can cut through the illusions. And then you are able to perceive the very subtle aspects of life, starting with yourself and your mind. And that's why it's a training. It's not like, from one day to another, I'm going to sit straight and I'm going to do some mantras and I'm going to look cool for people to think I'm really advanced. And then I'm going to show off because I studied this and I studied that and I went to this initiation and I did this retreat, But then in the end, maybe you go somewhere, you get stressed, somebody says something, you talk really badly to them because you're not aware. And you don't even recognize that you're actually not, being unkind to someone. So that it wouldn't be real practice, right? Because all this practice is complementary to the warm heart. Main practice is warm heart. So you have three aspects if you want to, according to Dharma. I have three aspects in order to get out of samsara. Or to be liberated, or nirvana, whatever you want to call it. It's just a concept for now. But at least you have to know where you want to go, right? You have to have an aim. But then when you walk, you look at the steps, or where you're going, the road that you're going. You don't look far away. And you can't think about step 10 if you haven't taken step 1. So it's a process. There are three aspects of to attain that, according to Dharma, is... One would be to show the method. So what is the method? Tap. Method. It's compassion, ningje, right? Bodhicitta. So that is the method. Through compassion. And complementary to that you have the wisdom, shut up. And the wisdom comes together with that. It helps you to put in practice properly. To put a direction, an aim, an objective. And then together with that, you need renunciation, because without renunciation it's very difficult. You have to be aware of samsara. Ngejung, right? You have to be aware of the reality, all the aspects of your mind and all the aspects of what's going on outside, together with everybody else. So there's a lot of things that we have to be coherent about and put into, relativity with us, because that's how we learn. We learn based on our perspective, because we are stuck in our body, right? It's not a prison, but if we choose for it to be a prison, it can be a prison. Oh, sorry. So that's why to adapt. That's very important. Every moment, sometimes when you feel like stress coming in, some difficulty, then You stop, you breathe. Breathe deeply. And you ask yourself, do I really want to invite this guest in and give him the power, full power of my body, full control of my thoughts, full control of my actions, full control of my words? Do I really want to invite this guest in? Uninvited guest. No, right? I mean, why would you? It's a destructive emotion that guest is bringing. It's a destructive emotion. The result is only going to be more suffering, more pain, harm. Unless, of course, you go through it, you feel it, you understand it, and you learn from it, and you correct that, change that, and you make the effort not to repeat it. Okay? And also apologize. I think apologizing is so important. Even if you're not wrong. It's true. Why? Because you give space for the person who did make a mistake to apologize to you. But if you don't apologize, I didn't do anything, it's not my fault, I'm not going to apologize, it's his fault. You don't give that space, so then that person sometimes they're very proud. They will never apologize, so then that will be just stuck there. Then may you carry that, he'll carry that. So it's good, to apologize. Always good to say thank you, always good to apologize, It helps a lot to bring up the frequency so that people can communicate better. If you're grateful, then it's very easy to think about others before yourself. Because, for us to exist, there's so many conditions have to come into place for us to be able to do what we do every day. I mean, this body is just amazing. It's working 24/7 for us, at our disposition. It's like our tireless servant, which we don't appreciate. And we only think about the body when something's not working properly. Then we're like, oh, what's going on? Oh. Otherwise, we don't listen to our body. So it's so important to listen to the body. Because the body is working for us tirelessly all the time. The heart starts beating after 2 weeks when you're conceived. And from that moment on, it never stops beating. Now that's love. That is dedication. Wow. Okay, any more questions? Is that good for you? Did that help? So basically create your base, you are your best friend. And you have there. And then when you get to that frequency, when you get to that energy, you will attract that energy for you. But it's very good sometimes meditating, you have female also in you, so when you're meditating sometimes you can visualize you're hugging, your concert is your female part, your female side. It has a shape, it has a form, and you can embrace it because it's part of you.
Is that basically what Tantra works with?
Yeah, you can say that. It's part of the visualizations. Even though I'm not allowed to talk about it. But just to help you to, kind of have that idea. Because it's true. We are complete by ourselves. So never have that concept again. We are complete and we are interdependent. So it's a we receive and we give. We're part of something. We are a functional, aspect of a much larger collective. The collective memory, collective, I don't know, there's so many aspects to it, It's just very complex. But at the same time, it's very simple. But I'm not going to get into that because I'm trying to help out a little bit with the everyday life, everyday aspect, of how to improve your life, how to be happier. So anyways, so more questions or, 1, 2, okay.
Hello. Hi. Hello. Hi.
Yeah.
Hi, Lama Ösel. Thank you very much for taking my question. And I had one question. You talked about renunciation. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering if you had any advice on how would you develop that in day-by-day situations.
So renunciation. Renunciation is not about saying, now I'm going to stop doing what I love the most and I'm going to suffer in order to be happy. That's not renunciation, okay? And renunciation is also not like, now I'm going to take a lot of pain in order to feel renunciation, that also, it's not like that. It's not about the extremes, it's about the balance. Balance. So if you're able to really start seeing more the whole process of how we interpret the experience of life, then we start to get more renunciation, in the sense that we don't grasp or get so attached to material objects or formless aspects of ourselves, because we are aware of the reality. So we can enjoy, we can experience it, but without the grasping mind, because we understand the reality of it. So that is also renunciation. It's not complete renunciation maybe, but it's a start, it's a beginning. Okay. The renunciation, the word is not a correct translation for Ngejung. At least I don't feel it's a complete translation. It's maybe one aspect of it, but it has much more to it. So Ngejung Kieba also means when you see, for example, when you are really, really attached to something like a chocolate cake. So you have so much attachment to it, so much grasping. But if you are aware that this chocolate cake by itself, it's empty from its own side. It's the fact that it depends on everything interdependently in order to exist. And that aspect is empty, right? It's empty from its own side, means it doesn't exist independently. It's a collective. It's part. So when you start seeing things like breaking down aspects and doing analytical meditation and questioning your reality, all of those aspects, it will help you to transform that. Because the chocolate cake in itself, and also the experience of the chocolate cake, is temporary. The experience of the chocolate cake is temporary, just like the suffering, temporary pleasure. But we get so attached to that. Even sometimes, suffering, we get attached to suffering. We get attached to being toxic somehow. It's a habit, it's a pattern. The neural pathways, we create neural pathways and we follow them. It's like a path in the forest. If nobody walks through the forest, everything will grow and you can't see any path. But if you walk the same direction every day on the same place, that path will maintain itself, right? And then it's very fast. You can use the path very fast. You walk very fast, right? You don't have to go with the machete chopping down things, right? The same way in the brain, the neural pathways are like that. The more you create a habit, the faster and the easier it is to go back to that. So that's why it's very important to be aware of your habits. That's why this course we did is called habit alignment. We just try to create new habits so that we can take those habits into our everyday life and incorporate them. Okay, was that your question? Is okay. So part of renunciation is to recognize it's just temporary pleasure and not to be attached to let it pass, like the thoughts, like the clouds in the sky, they come and go, but not to try to grasp, not try to catch, because there's nothing to take, nothing to catch. You can't catch these thoughts, but you have this concept that you can. It looks solid, it looks real, it looks like permanent. Okay, and afterwards you have a question too. Okay, she's gonna ask her.
My name is Lisa, and I just wanted to thank you for describing One Big Love. I experienced it yesterday. So I was in San Francisco in the Bayview area, and a lot of people who are underserved. And I was giving away coats and clothes and shoes. Mm-hmm. And yesterday there was a man who wheeled up in his wheelchair. He could walk. So he got up to look at the clothes I had, and he picked a coat that we had on the hanger, and he put it on, and he started dancing. He started twirling. He goes, I feel like I'm in high school. And he's 62 years old. And he says, this is the coat I had when I was in high school. This is exactly what I had, and I had these shoes, and I had these pants, and I had this, and I was with my friends, and he was transported from 62 to high school.
Wow.
By putting on a jacket. And that connection is why I continue to give away clothes, collect clothes, and then hang them up and then give them away. Because the first time I experienced that was a man who needed shoes, and he put on shoes and he started tap dancing. Something like that is one big love to me. Mm-hmm. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, or a mother's love also for her son and daughter. And actually, that's why in Buddhism it always talks about all mother sentient beings, right? Because so that you can relate to that love. Because according to Dharma, we've been in the cycle of death and life and rebirth for a very long time. So everybody has been each other's mothers at some time. Because it's such a long time that we've been, so for eons. So the eon, 1 eon I think is the life of a star. Something like that. So many infinite eons. So that's how, so when you say all mother sentient beings, it helps you to relate through that unconditional love to everybody. A bug, a human, a mosquito, doesn't matter. They were your mother at some time. So then you are able to generate that unconditional love.
Thank you so much for being here today and sharing with us about One Big Love. I have a question about the opposite aspect of that seems to be very much appearing in our civilization today.
Mm-hmm. Opposite of what? Of love?
Yes.
Uh-huh. What would be indifference?
It's
not hate, it's indifference.
Indifference,
yeah.
As well as violence. Or harming others, and how we can better work with that situation in our country, for example. And also, indifference comes about in climate change and our environment, and how that can.
So there's a phrase, and it says, "Be the change that you want to see in the world." And that's a very accurate phrase actually for this question, because it's not about worrying about or criticizing or getting like aggressive or resentful or negative or stressed about what other people, what is happening out there, but instead, and then we're just participating in the same low frequency vibration. But instead, if we actually transform that's overvaluing negativity. We're just focusing on some bad aspects. But actually in life, many times, things happen to you because they have to happen. And we may see it something really bad at the beginning, but afterwards maybe it's exactly what we needed in order to make that change, in order to get out of the comfort zone. I'm not saying it's okay to be a bad person. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just trying to give you a tool to be able to adapt positively to any situation. So that means you can see the positive in everything, because everything has a positive. So basically the work is within ourselves. The work is not with outside people and all that. Of course there's work there, but you have to start with yourself. If you don't start with yourself, then you start working outside, it's going to be disaster. You can't. You can't love someone if you don't love yourself. You can't feel not lonely if you're lonely with yourself. You can't feel not lonely with anybody unless you feel, So these are aspects it's something, once it's in you, then that will reflect the reality that's around you. So that is kind of like a little bit my kind of perspective in that, because it's very difficult. I mean, many people say, we're destroying the world, poor planet, I don't believe the planet is in risk at all. I feel humanity is at risk. The planet has been here for millions of years, Planet Earth, Mother Earth, Pachamama, she'll sneeze, get a fever, and that's it. Wipe out humanity. She'll continue, no problem. It's us that we have to be worried about, the next generations to come. Don't worry. I mean, the planet, of course, we have to worry. We have to respect. We have to adapt. We have to be able to be like the animals, the native creatures of the planet, the animals. They are the ones who are part of the whole flora. There's like they take care of each other. There's a whole kind of functionality to every single aspect of, life within Earth. And we are the anomaly. We're like the parasite, right? We want to, instead of adapting to the circumstance, we want the circumstance to adapt to us. So we want to change everything for our comfort. you know. It's a little bit like the king with the shoes. Same story. You know, we want to put leather everywhere. And that's what's happening. Exactly. You know, we don't want to adapt. We don't. And then not only don't we not want to adapt, we want to overvalue negativity so much more. There's so many more good things happening than bad things. And even the bad things can be good things too. So it's just a question about changing our perception and creating that reality. And putting our grain of sand in order for that change to happen. So you can't expect there to be change if you're not changing yourself. You know, you can't change anybody. You can give yourself space and time for that change to happen within yourself. And through that, you create the example, you create the circumstances for others to also learn from that aspect, from that example. Okay, more questions?
Hi, Ösel.
Hello. Is that Larry?
Larry, yeah. I have very little discipline, and the older I get, the less discipline I seem to have. And I have some bad habits and attachments that I would like to get rid of. And it seems the more I try to get rid of them, the stronger they get.
Okay.
And in the past, I have gotten rid of a lot of bad habits by just doing them until I got sick of them.
And did it work?
Yeah. Yeah. It actually did, but it seems like kind of a dangerous path. So...
What was the first part that you were saying?
Just
laziness?
Yeah, I'm lazy and very undisciplined.
Undisciplined, that was the word.
Undisciplined, yes.
Me too. We're in the same boat. I think you're rocking my boat right now. So I'm going to talk about myself in that aspect. I'm very lazy, but mind lazy, not body not so lazy. The mind is lazy. Just like the patience. You know, you have to be patient with yourself. It's not like, oh, I lost patience with that person. It's not like that. It doesn't work like that. You lost patience with yourself. So the same way, you know, you're lazy. It's not like, oh, it's difficult. So it's your mind. Some people, they have the most difficult circumstances, but they excel. Wow. Some people have the best conditions, and they just total disaster. You know, so it's about the mind, about how we think, what we want. But I have some good news for you, Larry. So I think the 50% is recognizing it. So that's most of the time people don't see that aspect. Be it addiction, or be it attitude, or state of mind, or it's just the way they relate to people. Many people do not see it at all. So the fact that you see it is already 50%. So that's really good, right? Yeah. So already the fact that you have that thought, you're already creating the conditions to move in that direction. So that's a big part, because the body is very amazing. You put your mind to it, and your body will adapt for that to happen. It will create the conditions for you to go in that direction, if you can see it. So discipline, it comes slowly. You can't just suddenly from one day to another, but you can start making small efforts, baby steps. You can't expect to be jumping on the moon like tomorrow, right? If humanity ever got to the moon, I don't know. So it's a question for another day. But if you want to be jumping in the moon, you have to start studying engineering, for example, or to become an astronaut, right? I mean, they're not going to send you to the moon just like that. So it's a process. It's a process. So where do you start? Right? So you start like that. 50% recognizing you have a problem, you have an issue, how that you want to change that. So you're already creating the direction. So that's already really good. It's a big step. So I think you're doing really good, Larry. Good job. Congratulations. And the rest is up to you. So in the sense that, we have to save ourselves from ourselves. That's basically what Dharma is telling us. Well, I think all religions, actually. Any spiritual kind of concept or philosophy is going to be saying that we have to we can be our best friend or our worst enemy, you know. But basically we have to save ourselves from ourselves because of that, because we're undisciplined, because we're lazy, because we procrastinate and we relax. I mean, procrastinating can be good. It is good sometimes. We need it, but not all the time, right? It's like food, you know, you can enjoy something, but if you eat too much, then you don't enjoy it, right? This is a phrase. It says less is more and more is less. You know, that's why the balance, the middle way. So good luck with your discipline. I need luck too. I need the help, and it's not easy. So I understand exactly, you know, what you mean. But as long as you take baby steps, slowly, don't push yourself too hard. Don't feel too guilty either, because that's bad. That's bringing you down, right? So you wanna look back and you're like, wow, look up to where I've got to now. So that helps you to really get good motivation, to get pumped up. And then you look in the front where you want to go. But don't despair, because there's always a long way to go, you know, always. That's why, you know, if we understand that we're learning every day, then we are wise. Because we are learning, we are receiving information all the time. And we're interpreting the information, and that's how we relate and interact with reality. But if we're not learning, then we don't know. How can we know, right? So that's why Plato said, you know, the wisest man is the one who knows he doesn't know anything, because we are constantly learning. So you're humble enough to recognize that, then you're wise. Because you're ready to adapt, you're learning, ready to absorb, to understand, to really be present. Do you want to do a short pee-pee break? It's 2:22. Should we do that? 5 minutes? Yeah? Okay. Is that okay? Kim? Yeah? Okay. Thank you. I'm just going to go to the bathroom. Maybe we do 5-minute break. And then we can continue with the questions. So think about maybe some questions or some subject you would like me to talk about. Thank you. Okay, so if more people have any questions, 1, 2, how many more people have questions? 3. Okay, so we'll do 3 questions and then we'll wrap it up.
Thank you, Ösel. Would you say something about the path of the householder compared to the path of the monk? Peter, hi, nice to see you again. Because my personal bias is the Vinaya is very hard to keep as a monk or a nun, and I think I have more hope as a householder.
So each person is completely different from each other. I mean, with the base is the same, right? The base. But then how our minds react or what we like, you know, not everybody likes the same things. The way we like it also. So there's many different aspects to that. Of course, I think a meditator who's been isolated for 20 years in a cave, if suddenly he has to, you know, have a family, a wife and kids, I think he would run back to the cave. After some time, I think he would run back to the cave. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So I think actually, in many aspects, to be a householder is more difficult than to be a meditator in your cave. Sometimes that could even be spiritual bypassing, you know. It's like, oh, I'm going to just retire to my cave and then I'm going to say I'm really patient. You know, of course, there's nobody there to, you know, make you angry. So of course you're patient, right? Until, wait till they put you in a householder's life, you know. Let's see how patient you are then. Right, that's a good question, right? So how do you practice patience with yourself, you know? But you have to have also the triggers, right? The catalysts. So in many aspects, like in order to have compassion, you know, how can you practice compassion without other sentient beings? How can you practice patience, you know? Even though that the compassion starts within, you have to have compassion for yourself in order to know what it is, how to offer that, and the patience and the humility and everything. But of course, it is a vice versa thing. That's why, for me, like, I don't feel comfortable sitting too high up because I want to relate to everybody as a friend, like we can relate to each other. For me, that's I learn from you and you learn from me, but it's not like, it's not I'm teaching anything, I'm just sharing some things. But you're the one who's learning. So that's the main aspect. Because I teaching, I don't know. For me, if you don't learn anything, I don't teach anything. So it's up to you, not up to me. And guru, one of the aspects of guru, the translation would be spiritual friend, right? So it changes a lot when you look at it that way. So we're all spiritual friends. We help each other, support each other, understand each other, learn from each other. And we see, many times we learn about ourselves through other people. Many times what we hate most in somebody else's aspect is what we don't like about ourselves. So we see it in someone else and it really affects us, like the phone, everybody's looking at the phone. Even though it's not so important, but it's that the mind, that's the mind, it chases, it's waiting to chase something, all the time. We're always ready to go behind anything, just like the wind with the grass. Whichever direction the wind goes, that's where the grass goes. That's how we are. Wherever the mind goes, we go after that. And so you want to be the captain of your boat. You don't want to just let the boat, the wind just take you wherever the sail. You put up the sail, it doesn't matter. I'll just go wherever the wind will most probably crash. So you want to use the wind and the sail to get where you want to go. So you use it, you adapt, That's it, So that's why, always be aware of the mind, like where is it going? How is it moving? Observe, check. The more you check, the more you observe, the more you learn about yourself. And then you can integrate that into your life and be happier because everything will be less, not so heavy sometimes. Like the bad things won't be so heavy because you'll be able to see the relativity in it, It's very relative, based on our perception. And we choose how to perceive something. So we have the power. We are the ones responsible. Very easy to say, it's not in my hands. We have to take responsibility. Okay, which was the other question? Is that good? Okay, thank you. But actually, being a householder, I think is great practice. Very great practice. Practice of patience, practice of hard work, of discipline, of humility, of love, of dedication, of understanding, of great gratitude, empathy. So many different aspects are going to be... Sometimes I think as a householder, you can advance much faster than as a meditator in a cave. Because you're bombarded by catalysms all the time. So you have no choice but to adapt. Many people, like, I'm in love, you're idolizing something. Once, the kind of like chemistry, chemical, endorphins or dopamines, all that finishes off, wears off after 3 years. That's kind of about the time they give it. It's 3 years. Physical chemistry. I'm in love. When that finishes, the 3 years, then suddenly it changes a little bit, the relationship, because it's not physical anymore. So if you don't have if you don't really have a strong friendship of something to, after 3 years, then you have crisis. Because you're idolizing, you're setting yourself for disappointing, and then you want to change the other person. You don't want to adapt, you want the other person to adapt to you. You want to make them how you want them to be, because then you'll like them more. Or they'll be better. It's better for them, it's good for them. But each person is in their own point of evolution in their life. So you can't expect them to you can't relate to them like, I need this, he needs that too, maybe yes, but sometimes it's different. So it's good to always give the space. 2 birds cannot fly if there's no space, right? If they're stuck, if birds acted like humans act when they fall in love, birds could never fly. So much clinging, so much attachment, no space. Like, what are you doing? Where do you go? Who are you with? All the time. If you're with me only, then I'll love you. But only if you're just with me. Come on, what? Then you shouldn't say love you. Say if you're only with me, then I'll be attached to you. That's the word you should use. So, anyways, yeah. So from my perspective, I mean, I'm talking from experience. It's very, very, like you have no choice. For me, when I had my son, So I had to put him as priority, and then even though there was difficulty with the mother, we had very difficult situations because of the love for the son was overpowering everything. So the problems kind of disappeared, dissolved. So as long as you focus on the true love, truly, then everything else will lose power, especially if it's negative, if it's not helpful, if it's destructive, counterproductive, de-evolutionizing, or I don't know. So yeah, that's good and bad is that, to evolve, to de-evolve, to move forward, to move backwards, so you always have that choice. It's never too late. It's always early. Okay, which was the next question?
Yes,
Okay.
I had a question.
Yeah.
I've just enjoyed a wonderful period of time with you and many fabulous people. And I'm a newcomer to this. I'm a native of this valley. And so my question is, and somewhat understanding who you are and what you represent personally within this tradition, my question is, what is the role of tradition, which I visualize the taproot of a whole process in what we call Buddhism here? And what is the role of tradition, and how does that interplay with the kind of change that we are experiencing and continue to anticipate that emerges right here in this valley? What does adaptation, and how do those things dance together in this kind of a tradition? And I ask you again because of what I perceive you represent is kind of some kind of a new perspective or a little bit of a change, or that's my question.
Yeah. Okay. So tradition would be, if you think about the tree, the tradition would be more like the roots and the trunk of the tree, the base. Why? Because tradition is based on the experience of people who've been realized, truly realized, not people who use information for power, to control, to like that. No, but the actual people who have reached certain realizations and experiences, and then they share that with others. The technique to arrive to that point. So that's why I think tradition is very important, but we have to be able to differentiate. Even within the institution, there's two parts to the institution. One is the institution that's based on kind of the control and the aspect of power and influence, and these, and that kind of wealth, that kind of aspect of the institution. Then there's the other aspect of the institution, which are the guardians of the teachings, right? The philosophy, the pure form, the untouched, and that is the important part of the institution that His Hornless is talking about, which is much more important than gurus or tulkus, because that's what really keeps the teachings alive, is that part of the institution. So we have to be able to differentiate that from one side. Then, of course, we have to be able to differentiate between what the actual aspect of the philosophy is, and another aspect is the lifestyle, the attitude. So we can understand the philosophy very well, but if we don't put it into practice, then there's not much meaning to it. And a lot of the tradition, like doing mantras, doing water balls, doing prostrations, all of that has a meaning. It's creating a habit in our mind, in our brain, or in our body, an imprint that's helping us to achieve, to understand the true nature of our mind. So these are all techniques that have been created for us to get there. We call it tradition, but it has a lot of meaning to it. And people were probably wiser at that time than now. Probably. I can't guarantee, but in general, I think they were wiser. Maybe we have more information these days, but how we use that information is different. We're losing our roots a lot in many aspects. We are losing touch with our roots. Planting, growing. That is just one aspect that we're losing. How many people here actually plant and grow their own food? Okay, 3, 4, 5. Five people. Okay? That's basic stuff. So So just in that aspect, it's very few. You know why? Because we're in these new times. If suddenly you take out all the supermarkets, most of us, we wouldn't survive. We wouldn't know where we're going to get our food from. Back in the days, people were wise enough to know where to find their food without supermarkets. Anyways, that's just one more aspect, okay? So tradition is really helpful if we want to branch out, if we want to be able to really kind of have different branches, that can help people to find meaning in their life and to be happier. But in order for that to stay intact, then we must have the tradition. We must have. Because otherwise it gets really lost. It becomes this kind of like, I don't know. What do you call it? What would you call it? I don't know. It's a new age. Lost. It just becomes watered down, basically. It's not the original nectar. It just becomes something. It's like Lama Zopa would probably use an example as the mark that the tea leaves in the cup after drinking it. That line. So it becomes like that. Instead of actually having the tea in itself, you only have like that line that. It's a little bit like that. If you don't have tradition, then it's very difficult to really, because it's very easy to misunderstand or kind of like misinterpret. So you can always come back to all that. And I recommend to try everything and see what works for you. But ultimately we're all going to the same place. I think you had a question, right? Who was it? Oh, Harvey. You had the question? Who was? Oh, no, sorry. Him?
Well,
Yeah.
it's more of a confession.
Sorry?
It's more of a confession.
Confession?
Yeah.
Oh.
Since you come from Spain.
What?
The values of compassion and love and forgiveness, I believe in them. But when I get behind the wheel of my car, sometimes they go out the window. I get into mini road rage. And when you forget that you forget. So this is, to me, a difficulty.
Yeah. Okay. Do you play music in the car? Do you put music when you're driving? Sometimes. Is most of the times you have road rage when you don't have music?
I never thought of it.
Do you have road rage with music? Well, it depends on the music too, maybe. If you have like Iron Maiden or System of a Down, maybe it's easier to have road rage, right? But if you have like something really melodious like the Tara Mantra, or see, you're creating the conditions. But
Well,
no.
see, other drivers who can creating the conditions.
Yeah, of course. Oh, of course. Blame the other, right? Easiest thing to do. Yeah. That's the
never
first
get
mistake we
road
do.
rage when I'm alone on a road.
You get road rage when you're alone?
No,
Oh, okay.
never.
Never. Never say never. That's Justin Bieber. He said that. He's an artist, music artist. So basically, road rage is very interesting because that means we're not aware of the moment. We're not with ourselves, or maybe we're too much with ourselves. If we can't stand ourselves, then maybe that's when road rage happens. We can't stand our mind too much. Oh, so toxic. So then we lash out outside. It's a way of expressing ourselves. We have conflict, and we are we have toxicity, and we have frustration, and then the way we express it is like that, road rage or something. But if we observe, if we're aware, then we can transform that. We can channel it. We can use that energy for something more useful. And so it's important to be aware of, use it. Like if you are stuck in traffic, then use that time. Adapt to it, Use it for your own creativity. You be creative, and then you use it. So maybe when when you stop in traffic, you use it to do mantras, or you use it to practice patience, or to do some meditation, some breathing, or just sit down and relax, just enjoy that time. Be like, okay, now this is my resting time. But instead, if you, then instead of resting, completely contrary, you tire yourself so much, you channel all this negativity, and then you get to wherever you're getting and you feel so tired, so exhausted. Because sometimes we do things that are going to complicate our lives so much more, and we still do it, even knowing it, and even having been doing it for so long. That's about habits also, like we do things that are counterproductive, that take away our quality of life. We will still continue living, but our quality of life will be diminished. So all these things we have to be aware of. We have to always be checking, observing. Okay? So... anyways, anything else? No? Okay, so thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much to listening to my boring talking. And yeah, I'm sorry if I create any confusion or if I made any mistakes. I'm really sorry. And let's dedicate, okay? Chanjo semjo remboje magye panam ke gyoreje gyawara nyambara mebara ya kone kondo bewa sho gyawa di nyodo da lama sangye dugyon doara jigya maleba te sala gyobara sho kare rawe korwe shinkamdi pendandawa malu jungene jenre siwang tenzin gyatso i shabe side pardo tengyor. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you.